Hello everyone, and we need to talk about AI. Yes, we've just had a big AI rework specifically for campaign, but it's about time that Creative Assembly started also looking towards battle AI. Obviously, it's not going to be anytime soon, considering Lords of the End Times is coming up, and we do know that the next patch is going to focus around sieges. This is something that's been bothering me a lot, as it's something that needs to be fixed. I'm not going to lie, I was hoping that the AI update was going to fix that, but it really just mostly focused around campaign. Which was important too, by the way. It's mostly stopped, not fully stopped, but mostly stopped all the armies just kind of, well, holding up in a settlement for some reason. So this is a vanilla battle from campaign that you can see on screen right now, but I will be alternating from vanilla and modded. Modded will be on a little white dot at the bottom left-hand corner, as you're aware. As you can see here, what's happening is I've got my flyers and it's completely disrupting the enemy just formation. This happens fairly often where sometimes you can trick the AI to just follow flying targets, and it works even better if you don't have large entities because the smaller ones can remain hidden and then they'll just see the flyers as the main issue here. So it's not going to stop them fully, although I do have examples of that later on. This is just disrupting formations, which means that you're starting to get the enemies kind of moving more like a conga line more than anything else, which means that they're easier to fight. I'm going to be taking this kind of easy though, and I'm just letting them come to me. The idea here is just showing that the AI doesn't really know how to react when a flying unit gets to their formation. Now granted, they don't have any range or, well, they don't have any flyers left to fight me, but the AI should in fact prioritize the targets that they can actually kill. For context, as I know some people will be asking, yes, the campaign is on hard campaign and hard battles, but it doesn't really matter. You can trick the AI on legendary, you can trick the AI on easy. So I can pick off some units pretty easily here, and the benefit of this means that I can just snipe out problems before they become an even bigger issue. They're going to be charging in and doing quite a lot of damage as Strigoi Lord is quite strong, but considering their formation was disrupted, their Necromancer was left far behind and unsupported, which means that, yeah, that Necromancer is going to die, and I'm not going to have problems with constant heals. The Necromancer heroes are usually the best ones for the vampire counts when it comes to healing. Now I'm going to be showing another example of this. I'm fighting against a dwarf army. This was from one of my campaigns recently on Twitch, and yeah, I should lose this. Let's be very honest there. Even though I've got a level 20 Strigoi, and yes, this is a modded campaign because I just added some stuff because it's always fun, extra units and the rest. Dwarves, injured as they may be, are still relatively strong, and I'm pretty weak. I actually lost the previous fight, and this was just the stuff that managed to escape. He does have a reinforcing army, but it's basically just a Rune Lord, but this is where things get kind of weird. We're going to skip a bunch of this battle. This is much later in the battle, but as you can see, things are getting a little strange. I've had this happen many times, even with pure vanilla, but this is the battle that's just kind of made me annoyed, because I was doing it on stream, and, you know, we're chatting on how silly this is, right? So, I've got the Terrorgeist flying around, basically taking out units when possible. Most of the army turns around. Sometimes they come back for me, but I can get them to separate. With most of the dwarf forces, just for the majority of this battle, searching for my Terrorgeist, the flying character, rather than going and separating, trying to bog down, of course, the White King on horse, which could be easy to remove. The AI doesn't know how to really prioritize enemy targets, and it doesn't know how to deal with just actually getting into a combat, right? Realistically, you'd spread your units around to try and bog down the enemy. You can lock them down and get them into combat, rather than what's happening here, or at least keep everything together rather than just all separate. This is something that really needs to be fixed, because it's not just with Dwarf AI, it's pretty much with every faction. You can just keep replicating this issue. Now, there are some cases where I've been able to get the White King to take all the attention, which works because obviously it's quite fast and able to move in and out as it's mounted, but it's still not the way to go. It's a lot of conga lining straight after. It's pretty weird on how this is handled. You might remember in some cases in battle, you might see a bunch of range units kind of bogged up. This actually happens in this battle, and it's just weird. It just made it easier for me to cast a pretty damaging attack with the Terrorgeist breast weapon, and I did that quite often throughout my stream. The logic is kind of lost here, and it's something that really needs to be fixed up for better battles, right? The campaign AI is definitely a little bit better. AI seems to know what to use heroes for and where to send armies, but this is a big lacking issue, alongside sieges, which I am a little concerned, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. One of the biggest issues can be found in bog standard battles, and I think a corner camp is the best way to show that. So this is once again in vanilla on the campaign. I turned down the difficulty a little bit just to kind of see if the AI would act any differently. This isn't a campaign I'm going to continue. I just wanted to get some footage for Malagor because Malagor's a flying lord and it just kind of shows what I mean. But in general, there's a few big changes here. So we're going to go into the corner and we're just going to look at something that's been bothering me since the beginning, and I feel like it's something that doesn't really get talked about too much. And this is of course the AI's incessant need to try and flank you, despite the fact that it's not possible with this combat. And obviously this isn't just Khorne, we see it with so many different factions. They're always trying to flank you with units that would be quite good for flanking, and I understand that, but in some cases this doesn't work. Here you can see enemy formations being incredibly disrupted because, well, they just can't get to the side. The logic is there and the AI is trying to think. Sometimes some units go back up and sometimes they're just like holding there. I don't have a lot of range units and I'm not really actively attacking them. I'm waiting for them to attack me. But as you can see, it's really, really odd. Even funnier still when they keep trying to cycle charge, despite the fact that, yeah, all these units are braced because there's no way to get to them, where they should just be keeping the combat going. Not so much with like horsemen, but like with the Fleshhounds of Khorne. They're better off just in there rather than fleeing to cycle charge and taking some hits to get back into formation. What should have happened here, and what the AI should have just kind of realized, is that sending some units straight in to die was kind of pointless. They sent in the hounds when they should have actually just formed up and attacked as a big line. This is an early game campaign battle. I don't have a lot going for me. It's basically just ungors, right? They could have killed me off. Instead, since they were going bit by bit, I was able to send troops where needed and just keep the attack focused on them so they can just die out very quickly. Shouldn't happen. Bloodletters and the rest should hurt me a lot more. This isn't Skarbrand's army, admittedly. Were this Skarbrand, I would have lost because, you know, he's one of the stronger legendary lords and he has that rampage mechanic that can disrupt your formations. But this basic lord with a lot of bloodletters, with a decent amount of fleshhounds, should have been able to kill me off. I know some people are going to say, well, you were corner camping, that's how it works. But the thing is, the AI should have a little bit of logic to try and assess the situation. Hopefully that's not going to be the problem that we see in Warcore with Medieval 3 and 40k, as it is a new engine and they're obviously going to be working on new logic and the rest, but it's something that really needs to be done for Warhammer 3, if in fact it is true that they do have many years still left, as they said in many interviews, for this game. I just want to see the battles be brought up to par, because it feels like as the game has progressed, maybe it's gotten a little bit worse. Maybe I'm looking at Warhammer 2 with rose-tinted glasses, but it does feel like sometimes the battles were okay there compared to this. Alright, now we have to talk about siege battles, which there's a few things to talk about. This is, of course, modded, because it's from that campaign I've been doing on Twitch, and I should have lost this one. It's also the first time I've ever had a draw ever happen. I don't have battle timers on, I never have them on, so it was just really weird to get a draw here. But this is 3 full stacks of Bretonnians attacking me, and I've got basically, well, nothing really. I've got like a stack of defenders, which is basically damaged, and my garrison is the only thing that's really up and running properly. So what happens here is that all the Bretonnians don't really know what to do here. The first battle starts, and I'm basically being able to hold them back. They spread out too thin, which is expected. This happens because the AI battle logic is a bit weird when it comes to this, but it gets worse as time progresses. Now, yes, we do have to talk about the fact that, yes, there is a siege rework coming. But, I mean, we've already kind of seen the blog where they talked about what they want to do, right? It was a while back, and it was like, oh, it's just the worst case scenario, because it was literally just the fixes that were coming in the beta. Unless something's changed, and look, there has been a decent amount of time, so maybe they're going to deal with the AI logic there too, one can hope. But those siege ladders actually made sieges worse and not better. So the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because it's basically a battle thing, right? The AI doesn't know how to handle stuff like this, and it gets even worse as we start progressing through it. Once I've killed off the first section, I'm holding down the line in the others, and in the very far right, of course, it's the infamous just holding down the gate, right? If you've got something like units that can be healed, especially with the vampire counts, this works out a lot. Mortis engine and a bunch of skeletal warriors, you just have to let the enemy push in. Enemy reinforcements don't know where to go. Even if gates get destroyed, they'll sometimes just focus on one area. I've had a bunch of enemies climbing on the walls, but the Strigoi up there is basically enough to just deal with that. Most of the others are just waiting. There's a lot of cavalry here, which makes a lot of sense, and some archers. The archers didn't try and climb the walls either. Basically what was going on here is just gridlocked. They were pushing in from the center, which was no problem whatsoever, as I had some units on the way, and I was killing off the characters, and this is something that we talk about a lot. We actually saw this, by the way, in the 40k showcase, where a tank just kind of went by itself and became a prime target. Hopefully that gets fixed, and assumingly that gets fixed anyway. That's a new engine, and they're probably still like tinkering around with it, but here it's very obvious where characters will sometimes just fly to their death. And it happens so often. They'll lock in, they'll go into by themselves. Sometimes in land battles, you'll see a character or a flying monster just go straight into your gun line. But the big issue, as you can probably see by now, is the conga line. So, despite the fact that there's multiple gates open, well, just 2, they are focusing around this one. The AI should go around and attack other gates. The AI should spread around a lot better. The logic on the AI should work there. Instead, they're just going straight into the Mortis engine, and the Mortis engine is ripping them apart. Sure, they've got some other units coming in from the front, but that is just the stuff that was spawned there, and I'm going to deal with that without a problem. Again, I could have won this battle. The fact that I got a draw was just super weird, and it actually kind of put me off. Like, I'm counting a draw as a loss, but this should not have been a draw. The AI was just dying. I think I got to the point of like 600 and something kills with the one Mortis engine, not counting all the others. And it's mostly just because the enemy just doesn't know how to handle that. The extra foot troopers, the archers, are trying to push their way in rather than going on the wall and dealing with the problems there. There is a character stuck on the wall, which means that the other AI, which is down there next to the ladders, doesn't want to come out because as far as it's concerned, there's a unit on the wall already and it's waiting. Hopefully this stuff gets fixed for the siege rework, but I very much doubt it, considering that, well, it's more of a battle thing. Sieges in their own have to be fixed up, but as you can see with the conga line, that's something that happens even with the beta, right? The beta, you can't destroy the walls with basic troops. It has to be like a certain monster type and the rest, right? So what happened is most of them were just putting themselves on the walls. But if you just destroy basically all of them but one, which, you know, you can target and the rest, you get troops doing the conga line with the gate just like they do with the walls. I'd really like to see what happens if the siege weapons get destroyed. Does the AI just like turn off type of thing? But obviously we're gonna have to wait until whenever that siege rework comes out in the next few months, I guess, after the release of Lords of the End Times. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about this today because, yeah, battles are kind of off, right? And something that needs to be talked about, respectfully, of course. Creative Assembly probably heard a lot of people complaining about, like, you know, campaign AI, which is true. And they got to deal with that. It's about time that people start talking about this too. Don't, like, scream bloody murder, because that doesn't work. At the end of the day, highlighting that stuff on the forums is going to help, or on the Reddit, or on the rest. If you want the game to do better, it needs to be reported. The issues need to be talked about, because, of course, Creative Assembly are going to be busy making Lords of the End Times and the rest, and there is a lot of bugs being posted on the forums too. So good communication is going to work on both sides, right? I find it really weird because I'm pretty sure some content creators are like, oh yeah, you know, we're going to start like talking about bugs more, but I never see it. I really never see it. It's weird. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about it because it's important to highlight, and I'll come back to this video in a little bit of time, get some comments that you guys might have put about it, because I want to know what issue you guys have been having with battles, right? And then hopefully present it to CA, because we need to talk about this and we need the battles to get a little bit better. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let's start a discussion, and I'll see you all again very soon, guys. Apologies for the late video likely. I've only just started getting to the last of it now, because yeah, just getting some stuff sorted. A lot of everything, but it's all good. It's all good. Have a good one, guys. Bye.